I've already been introduced as retired. Live over in Coal Valley. I served a church over at Hamlet and Perryton for about 8 years in the middle 1970s into the 80s. Got married at the end of that time. My wife of 26 years is sitting back there. I have to stop and think now. I was raised in North Iowa, went to Dubuque, finished the college there and also the seminary. Went out to San Francisco in the early 1970s to do a Doctor of Ministry project, and that's kind of my background. What I was raised in was my dad was a farmer in North Iowa. Now, I'm going to back up a moment and say what I'm doing is I titled these remarks, Tales of a Country Parson. It's really not a sermon, it's just reminiscences of some things that have happened to me over the years. Dad was a farmer, farmed for the first 8 years of my life, lost his farm during the Depression. We paid rent to a bank or insurance company for a few years until somebody else bought the farm and we moved off, and Dad ended up in a small gasoline station in a town about the size of Preemption. Now, the negative thing about that is there was no major highway running through it, so there was not a lot of off-highway business coming into it. It was just local business. And during the years, I spent a number of times running that gasoline pump, changing tires, replacing fuel pumps on Fords, which inevitably went out during the coldest part of the winter. And if your fuel pump isn't working and you have to have it changed, it has to be done. Dad did not have a garage in which to work. We worked out in the open. Getting ready for this, I wasn't told too much of what to expect, told I could do pretty much what I wanted to. And we're going through some things in the basement and that we were throwing away, and came across this little book. It says autographs on it, and I opened it. It was my mother's high school autograph book back in 1926, or maybe it was 25. Anyway, Naomi said it was before she was born. So, Dear Mary, that was my mother's name. Wooden legs wooden legs don't run in the family, but wooden heads do. Don't take this to heart. I'm not going to give the name, which doesn't mean anything to me. Then there was one written crossways. Mary is short of rage when she sees that I have written across the page. Well, there's more of those things, but it reminded me when I was in high school, we had mother put together something for me too, and had a number of those. Went around and got them in. The one I happen to remember, I don't happen to find the book. Roses are red, violets are blue. Love is blind, but the neighbors ain't. And then at the bottom of the page, look who your neighbor is. My high school classmate. Naomi suggested I do some reminiscing about this, and thoughts of things that came to me. Here's a preacher boy. You probably think they never get in any trouble at all, although every one of you who's been in a pew and watches that preacher child like a hawk. Of course, I wasn't a preacher boy. I was a farmer's kid. Grandpa and Grandma lived across, kitty corner across the field from where we were. To go around took about a mile by the road. And I don't know what happened, but one of those days I decided I was going to go over to Grandma's place because she would treat me better. And I probably got 100 yards along the road before Dad caught up with me. And then he picked up a little switch off off the ditch and helped me run home. I imagine bawling all the way. I don't remember the event. It's just I was told this. What I remember, for instance, that after we moved into the small town and had a river running through it, is the times I went swimming in the river without my mother's permission. And one of the times she asked me why my hair was so wet. Embarrassing situation. I was going to read the first psalm at this time to kind of give some kind of a setting to it. We've already done that. And what I was going to do is just talk about the churches where I have been at. Briefly, I'm not going to say anything slanderous about any of the churches. I think most of them are cute little stories. The first place I served after having been ordained. Now, I was going to tell you how long I've been ordained. I was ordained 50 years ago last summer. I served something like 31 and a half years in churches here in western Illinois, starting down at Macomb Country Church out there, up to Hamlet and Perryton, over in Oquawka. Spent 6 years out in Iowa near Grinnell. Total of about almost 40 years of ministry, and then retired. And I'll come to a little bit of that later. But then down at Macomb, that was my first church. My son was born down there, so it's got some good things. The negative side about it is my first wife died down there. And I left there with some good memories, but I also left telling some people that I'm pretty sure that my opinion over the years is going to be forgetting a lot of the things about Macomb. And that truly has happened. I don't remember too much about that church because it's got painful things, and you kind of put the painful things out of your mind. I went up to Ryle, was there about 8 years. Got into scouting there. I had a boy that was working at scouting, and he got through to become an Eagle Scout during the time I was there. I'd be proud of him, and I still exchange Christmas letters with him. It was a time when my son started school. He went through the first 6 grades of school there in Ryle when they still had an elementary school in the town. Doesn't exist anymore. They take them all over to Oneida, but these things happen. There was one thing that took place in Ryle that I thought, that's not cute, but it's somehow God was at work. I was involved in the stewardship program of the denomination and the presbytery, and I was supposed to go over to Cleveland, Ohio for a conference, February or January of some year, and had those arrangements made, airplane tickets and so forth bought. In the morning I was to leave, I get word somebody has died in the congregation. Call the immediate family, we talk. I don't know whether this is Monday or Tuesday, but anyway, have it figured out. They'll do the funeral on Friday. I can fly to Cleveland. I can fly back, be in time for the funeral. You know, the weatherman didn't cooperate. I got over to Cleveland, and we had one of these gigantic winter storms. The Cleveland airport was entirely shut down. I didn't know how I was going to get out of Cleveland. I called the railroad station. They said that New York Central was still running their trains, so I got down there and got on a New York Central train into Chicago, and I thought, it's going to work out. I got out at Grand Central Station in Chicago, which is where the New York Central came in, figured out I had to get to Galesburg, which was in Santa Fe. That was about 6 blocks away. Well, take a cab, you can get there. There wasn't a single cab in Chicago running because of it. I walked that distance. I walked across what today is the Eisenhower Expressway, 4 lanes each direction. There wasn't a car in sight.